Okay, all right. Let's get started here. So um, today we're going to do sort of a dual purpose. Today I'm going to introduce you guys to Vue.js, which is a well, you can read about it here, and I'll just actually slap this right up on the links here. I do recommend looking into this. I don't know if I mentioned this. When I started talking about these seminars, but I'm sort of assuming that you know some basic HTML and website structure. If you don't, you should be able to follow along just fine. Um, but anyway, Vue.js is a JavaScript library that you can use to make your page more reactive more easily. And I'll show you some. I have a little bit of an example that I'll show you before we really dig into the code. Um, but you can read through this. The basic idea is that you define an app in your HTML, or you define an element in your HTML with a certain ID, and you can give it these. This is sort of like a variable, and then in your JavaScript you can make an app object, and you can actually change these parts live and have them react. You can also have certain sections show up only if certain conditions in a JavaScript are true. It just makes building a reactive page much easier. That said, it's a framework, and they always come with their own sorts of costs. Sometimes they complicate things unnecessarily, but overall, I found it pretty useful when making dApps, because obviously dApps are going to be reactive. You want them to change. So, all right. So, whoops, that's not what I want. I want to go to my Atom here. So this this is code. I just took the deposit manager interface from last time, which is in the week 1 source code in the repository, and I copy pasted it over here, and I made a couple changes which I'll go through now. The first change is I added this this CDN for the Vue.js. That's what gives us the Vue functionality. I added this this app object here, which is similar to this right here. It's the second one, sorry. And then I've added in the actual HTML here an element that has the app, and then I just have I'm just demonstrating it with some test strings. So first, okay, so I'll go down here, and so this element has this this test. I don't know what you call this in Vue. I bet they have a word for it. Let's just see. I guess maybe a template. Looks like that's what they're calling it. So anyway, we have a template here, which I'm calling test, and then I have a button here, which I'll get into that in a second. But we have this test variable here, and if we go back up to our JavaScript Vue app, you can see we make a new view, we name it app, and we tell it where to find in the HTML the item that we want to make reactive. And then here we also have to tell it what variables to watch out for, and we also give them an initial value. So from that, if I go here and I go to my page here, and again, this is all going into my var www.html up there, and that's why I can load it just by going to localhost and then the file name. So if I load this here, there's the test string. So that right there is reflecting this bit of HTML. So it's sort of replaced this test template with whatever the value is of whatever value it has at that moment. And now I also have a button here. We can see the button here, and we can see the HTML code for it right here. We have an on-click. We have a bit of JavaScript code here, and you can see all we're doing is we're saying app.test equals. We're just reassigning this test variable within this app object. So we're reassigning this test variable to just another test string. And so just to demonstrate that, when I click this, it'll change it right there. So that's sort of the beauty of Vue, is that you can I was able to, just by changing the value of a variable, I was able to know that the HTML would automatically be reflected. I didn't have to go refresh anything. I didn't have to worry too much about making sure that change was reflected on the screen. I just changed a variable in here. So that's the power of Vue. And I didn't make any other changes. I'm going to start this seminar off by just sort of going through what we already have and transforming it into the Vue framework. So all this stuff is from the old file. All these functions are from the old file. And these are also functions that are they don't really make sense with our new app that's going to be dealing with the subscription manager, because these are all these all have to do with the deposit contract. So I'm just, first, I guess what I'm going to do is just comment out everything that doesn't make sense anymore, or that we want to ignore for a little while, just to make it a little bit visually clear. There's got to be a hotkey to toggle comments, Control/. Okay, I'll remember that. Let's see here. We can keep all this stuff, but let's, well, I guess I can comment this out with HTML. HTML comments are a little different, in case you don't know that. Like that. Okay. Oh, but we can keep the transaction broadcasted, because we will still maybe want to use that later. Okay. So we still want to keep this stuff in. We are, again, we're sort of creating the Web3 object, depending on whether MetaMask has injected their Web3 object or not. But what we can do is, instead of using jQuery here, we can sort of translate that into the Vue framework. I'm going to take out this test variable. We don't need that anymore. I'm also going to take out this this test output here. Don't need that. We don't need this weird button. And so this connection status, I'm going to move this whole thing up here, like this, and then, well, I'll cut it from there. And then I'm going to, instead of having this span with an ID that's empty that we fill in later with a jQuery, I am going to just do this. Like that. Okay, and then I'm also going to go up to the Vue app and make sure that that is registered as something. And I'm going to make the initial value loading, and that way if we don't ever update this, it'll just say loading rather than nothing. It's a little bit clearer. But then later we're going to change this, is the idea. And we can do that right here. So, well, I guess first of all, let's just save and make sure that that appears like we want it to. Connection status loading. Okay, that's good. Now let's go back here, and instead of using jQuery here, we are just going to say app, and that's the name of our variable here, dot connection status equals connected. And same with down here. Equals. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, let's save and make sure that does what it's supposed to. Probably should make sure MetaMask is unlocked. Okay, so that works out. That works out quite well. I have a question on Slack. Before I go and check that out, I want to make a point here that this has already made some of our code a little bit easier to read. This network ID, span ID, this is a little bit more jumbled than what we have now with the connection status. I'm also going to rename this to connection status output, just to be a little clearer. Output, and then put that here, right here. And here it's also a little bit clearer. We're just updating a variable output to connected rather than using jQuery. And jQuery is not bad, but this is even a little bit better. Okay, now let's go to that Slack. See what the comment is here. Oh, this is on Ganesh, I think. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna take a look at that later. Is this on the seminar chat? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Where was I? Well, okay. So now this is all working with Vue. That's good. This stays the same. I also, another change, I just took out the address and ABI for now because we're not going to move on to that yet. So this line is probably failing. We'll get to that later and define these maybe pretty soon here actually. Again, so here's some jQuery. We're going to change that into Vue. So let's see. We want a user address output. Something that often gets me here is I forget to put commas in here. When you put more than one variable inside this, you have to put a comma. I always forget that. Loading. And let's just see if there's anything else we want to put in here. We want a network ID output. Okay. And then a contract address output. So I'm just going to put all that in here. Okay. And then here, again, we are going to change this from jQuery to using Vue. So let's see. That. Oh, and actually this should be app dot that equals Again, there are other networks that we could output. I'm not going to worry about that for this this version. And then here, oops. And of course, contract address right now is going to be null. Let's just save and go to our web page, refresh. Oh, I forgot to change the HTML down here. So, wait a minute. So this is not getting updated for some reason. Connection status output. Well, what did we change? It was working earlier. Oh, you know what? Let's check. We should have this console open. I bet there's an error in the JavaScript that's just sort of stopping everything. Developer tools. Oh yeah, we got syntax errors. So line 13. Oh yeah, I forgot my commas. I told you guys I forgot that all the time. Yep, and you guys are onto it. Okay, let's try again. Funny. Okay, so that still works. We still have some errors. Let's go to 106. Oh, right, we got some. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that for now. Still got an error here on 47. 47, and it's saying type error. deposit holder is not a function. Oh yeah, I should comment all this out. Because again, this is all... Well, we can leave this one... Well, no, let's just comment it all out. Control / there we go. Save, let's run. No errors, that's good. And then one last thing I forgot to do is actually, I have to put anything I want to be reactive like this, I have to actually put inside this this app element. So I need to go and say, I'm just going to move this div here down below here and indent all this. Let's make that a little clearer what's going on, and then change this span stuff with network ID output and user address output, like that. Okay, let's see if that works like it should. There we go, that looks good. And let's just, I mean, we can just see that that is the same address that I have selected here. That's cool. I am curious, I'm just going to see if I change my address here, does it change automatically? It doesn't, so my page, we would have to do some manual checking if we want our page to be intelligent enough to change the reflected address when we change. Anyway, okay. So that's all good. Let's start putting our contract information in. And see if we can start getting that information. So ideally, I would have written down or bookmarked the page with my contract, because I can go to this deployed contract here, bring me to Etherscan. I can click on this contract, and that does look to be the one that I've been testing. But I'd hate to be wrong about that and be using some older version without realizing it. So I'm going to reopen Remix and redeploy here. And actually, while we're here, I realized something I should have done on Monday, although we did sort of run out of time, is because every user is going to be using their own subscription manager contract, we want them to ideally have some sort of create button on this page where they would click create, and then it would make their wallet, their subscription manager contract, and then they could start interacting with that contract. What that means is that we can't just have one contract here, and actually we can't just hard code the contract address here because every user is going to have a different address. So when you want your user to be able to easily create more or multiple of a specific contract, and just like I did with ToastyCoin. ToastyCoin, there are several. You can make as many burnable payments as you want. And the way that you do that, a pretty easy way, is you can make a factory contract. So I'm going to say contract subscription manager factory, like that. And now, before I get into this, I should say there's another way you can do it. You can actually deploy contracts from Web3 code. I think that's a little bit more complicated, and doing it this way actually adds a couple of benefits. One of which is that if we use one factory contract that's just making subscription managers, then we can actually find all of the subscription managers by looking at this contract and seeing its history and seeing what it created. And that also actually allows us to do some authentication, so we can be extra sure that when we're looking at a specific contract that kind of looks like a subscription manager, we can be guaranteed that it is a subscription manager by saying, okay, well, did it come from the factory? Because if it came from the factory, it must be a subscription manager. So I always prefer to use a factory contract when I'm building a dApp that the users will want to make multiple or just their own, whatever the contract is. And the code here is pretty simple. It's just, we're just going to have one function here, and it's just going to be called new subscription manager, like that. And this wants to take in any arguments that our constructor of the subscription manager takes. Our constructor doesn't take any arguments, and so the subscription manager factory doesn't need to either. Now, there's going to be a bit of a sort of a gotcha here, which I'll get into, having to do with this line here. First, I'm going to write the code here, and then I'll start talking about what the complication is here when you start using a subscription manager, or sorry, when you start using a factory contract. So for this, I am going to, because I don't remember the exact syntax, I'm going to go to my Toasty Coin, and I'm going to go to the Solidity file just to get the, so you can see here, here's the factory, here's the payment. I have some other functions here. And this is for tracking all the burnable payments, but I'm going to ignore that for now. Here we want to say, let's see, what was I wanted to look at the syntax of this line right here. So I'm just going to copy this, just to make it easy, go back to remix and paste, and then change according to how I want it. So obviously this is not a new BOP address, it's a new and then we're going to say new, not burnable open payment, but subscription manager. If there was value being passed in, we could leave that in, but I believe we just take all of this out like that. And then here we put in the arguments, which there are none, so we're just going to do that. I believe that that's pretty much it. Let's see if that compiles. It does with some warnings. Oh yeah, I should put some visibility on here. That's one of them for sure. I'm going to say that this one is external. Let's see, and what is this warning? Unused local variable. Oh yeah, so I also want to say returns address, like that. Address. And that way, if some other contract wants to use this factory on Ethereum, then it can actually, it will receive as a return variable the address of the created subscription manager. And I believe we might actually use that ourselves. So there we go. Our factory is done. We can call this new subscription, or we can call this new subscription manager function. It will create a subscription manager and give us the address, and that deploys it as well. So every time we call this, there's going to be a new contract called a subscription manager with all this code and all this logic on Ethereum. Now there is Okay, we should be back now with sound. I'm not exactly sure where I lost you guys because there's a little bit of lag with the stream. What I was going to say is, well, let me ask you this: did I explain the issue here adequately? The problem is that when the factory creates a subscription manager here, the constructor is going to set the owner to this factory contract and not to the actual user. So we need to make a modification there. And here is the modification I'm going to do. Instead of just taking the sender of the message and setting it as the owner, I'm going to make it explicit and make it an argument in the constructor. So address owner, like that. And I'm even going to do that kind of style. Like that. And then here we'll put message.sender, like that. Okay. Does everything make sense? I would hate if I sort of skipped a little bit in my monologue because of that technical issue. And hit compile here. Everything still compiles. That's good. There must be like almost like a 10-second pause in the or lag in the stream. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Please let me know if it seems like there was something that I skipped. But I was just talking about the issue with using the message.sender and setting it to the owner, or setting the owner to the message.sender when you're using a factory contract. Okay, so that compiles. Let's see what these issues are. That's a warning on invisibility. This one, oh yeah, I want to hit emit. Another change from on Monday is I did add a few more events, but that's about the only change other than this factory contract since last Monday. Okay. So we have this new version of our file here, and now when we click on this drop down, you can see there's two different things here. We're gonna have to manually deploy the subscription manager, just like we've been manually deploying everything. And then in our code, we're gonna hard code that factory address into our file here, and we're actually gonna call it a contract factory address. That. Okay, so we've compiled. Let's run. We'll go, yep, keep it on injected. Make sure we're on Robston. We are. And then we're going to say not subscription manager, but the factory. And deploy. Confirm. Okay. Failed. Wow, that was fast. Says failed, but it's still mining here, so that's a bit odd. I don't know what's going on there. And then it says success, so that must be a bug in MetaMask. I definitely trust this Etherscan more than I trust MetaMask. So there's our contract. We're on Robston Ether. Everything seems to be working fine there. Now we have a address, so let's copy that, put it in here. And again, we want to say contract factory ABI. And I'm actually going to change the names of these. This really shouldn't be contract. That's pretty general. Hey, give me 1 second, guys.
I'm really sorry to bug you. You probably wouldn't know if anybody would collect something like lost and found, like that.
I saw your backpack there, and then someone had moved to the side. I would imagine it's, I don't know where.
Okay.
It's probably not lost.
Okay.
Everyone around here is pretty trustworthy.
Yeah.
I would call John. Let me get his number for you.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, and I actually have left my phone at my house, so I can keep searching for it.
Okay, well, do you have something to write down a number?
Yeah, I have nothing on me right now.
Okay, how about this? I will, let me see, I'll get his number, I'll copy it, and then you can text yourself from my phone.
Okay.
Of course, I tried to call him. John. Come on.
That's fine.
This is not working.
That's okay. I mean, I'm sure it's number 2.
Here, I'll just write down the number. I got a paper.
Sure. Thank you.
Just one more moment, guys. There you go.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good luck. Okay. I need to put a sign up, I think, that says I'm streaming and do not disturb, but that's okay. So, as I was saying, contract here, this is a little bit generic. I'm going to rename this to SM for Subscription Manager, and SM here as well. Make that a little bit clearer. Okay, now I need to actually get the factory ABI. Again, that will be over in our remix. And now, once again, because we do have 2 contracts in our file here, make sure you're selecting the correct one when you're getting the details that you want. So I'm going to go here, click Details, get the ABI, copy that, and put it in here like that. And you'll notice the ABI is super small. That is because there is our factory only has one function. In fact, you can see there's just one item in here. It's a list, see, with just one item, and it's the function new subscription manager. So that's kind of interesting to look at if you want to sort of get an idea of what goes on in the ABI. And now we're going to actually put another ABI in here, and that is the ABI of the subscription manager contract itself. Because once we create one, we're going to want to know how to deal with it. So I'm just going to do SM ABI like that, and then I'm going to go back to Remix, select Subscription Manager, Details, copy, and paste, just like that. Put the semicolon. Okay, I could just minimize those like that. So let's see. So we've got the ABI and address of our deployed contract here. This is the deployed factory contract. So now we want to, I suppose we want to add a button, just try to make a button that creates a new contract. And we'll go from there. So let's see here. Web 3 connection info. Okay, let's do another header. Oops, H2. Let's see. Oop. No, that's too many news. There we go. Like that, okay. And then we're going to make a button. So I'm just going to have it call a JavaScript function that we'll define after I write this line. So that function we will call create new. I'm just going to what is our remix? What is our Solidity function called again? It is new subscription manager. So I'm just going to mirror that pretty closely. And I should put quotes around this, like that. Probably could keep out contract button like that. Okay, now we need to define this JavaScript function. So let's go and let's see, this is window.onload, which goes down to here. Okay. So now we're going to say, what is it called again? Call new subscription manager function. Call new subscription manager. Like that. And now here we need to put in some Web3 code, and so we can look at this stuff for some reference. Let's see. Well, first, let's take this line out of in between all this stuff. Let's put it at the end of our onload function like this, and we're going to have to rename some of this stuff. So once again, I'm forgetting all my variable names. SM factory address, SM factory ABI. So SM factory ABI at SM factory address. Okay, I'll change this name too to SM factory instance, like that. So that's good. And now in our call new subscription manager, we're going to say window.sm factory instance dot, and now we need to actually call the Solidity function, which is new subscription manager. New subscription manager. And we put in an empty dictionary for our first argument. This is where we could specify that we need that if we want this Web3 function to actually include Ether in the call, which we don't, because we're just creating this and we don't need to put any money with it. And then we would put some arguments in here if we had arguments to put in, but as it is, we're just going to put a callback. And we're going to define a function to handle the callback. Let's see, if error, we're just going to do a console.log error like that. Else, okay, now we have a result, and that result, again, the way that this callback works, it's not going to give us the address of the factory directly. It's going to give us the transaction ID. So this will return quickly before it's even mined. It'll give us a transaction ID. Then we can go and watch for that created contract. And it's not actually super simple to get programmatically get the contract address from a receipt. So we might have to spend a little time looking that up. But for now, what we can do is we can add this to the transactions broadcasted. Now, here we'd like to use the view framework, and to do that, we'd like to define sort of a list here and be able to add things to the list and have it automatically update. And I don't remember exactly how to do that, so I'm going to look that up here. So, view list rendering. Yeah, so it has to do with this v4. This is a view thing. And we have an items list. Okay, that seems pretty clear. Okay. So the idea is that we'll have a list defined in our app, our view app. So I'll just go and put that in right now. Go up to our app here. And that does go in data, right? Yes, it does. I'll do it like that. Oh, and then don't forget the comma. And I think it can just remain empty. And then to render that, we need to just do this v4 here. What v4 does is it repeats, so you give it a regular HTML element, and if you put the v4 in here and you sort of tell it what list to, you give it some information on how to iterate through the list, it will just repeat this item, this element, however many times it has to render all those items. So down in our HTML for transactions broadcasted, first I'm going to move this div down to after this. That way this bit is included in our app here. And then instead of having a span here, I'm going to have a div, and then I'm going to say v4. And let's see, v4 equals, we'll close the div down here. Actually, we'll close it up here on the same line because there's not going to be anything in between these two. And then for this string, this v4, we'll just say transaction in transactions, that. And I guess we will put that on a different line. And here, as you can see, you just use these template coding, and you can just call whatever you're iterating. So here we'll go transaction, and I think just put a break there so they go on different lines. And I think that's all we'll need to do. Of course, to test this, we should have something in transactions. So for now, I'm just going to put some dummy stuff in here. Dummy 1, dummy 2, and I'm just going to run this and see if those render like they should. So I've saved it. I'm going to go to here and refresh. Okay, so it's rendering our list correctly. So I'm going to take these out, leave that empty, and then here, back to our callback here, what we're going to do with our result is we're just going to add that to our list. So, so we go app dot transactions dot how do you add things in JavaScript to arrays? JavaScript add to array. Let's see. I always forget every language seems to have a different way to add things to arrays. Push and result. Okay, now that should do it. So I'll test it now. We're going to be testing a couple things at once. First, we're going to be testing to see if this button actually works and if it calls the Web3 function correctly. And we're going to see if it puts the transaction hash into that list like we think it should. So let's see if it goes. I'm going to go back to here, refresh. I'm also going to clean up some tabs here. We don't really need a lot of this open. I'll keep that one open. Keep that one open. That's our factory address. I can close that. Okay, and I can probably move this over here. Okay, so refresh. Let's see. Nope, got an error. Contract address is not defined. Okay, so that's just let's see, go to line 44. 44, this should be SM factory address. And while I'm changing this, I'm going to change this variable to the name of this. I guess I should really keep the name the same. Go up to my app. Oh, and then output. Okay. Let's see. Hey, that looks good. Okay, so it's generating a transaction. It says the new recipient ends in B6D5. So we can just go here and make sure that that is. Yep, that's our. Looks like that's our contract. Okay, so let's go ahead and confirm. I'm going. Well, I would change the gas settings here, but this is Ropsten. Doesn't matter how much gas you're putting in, because again, none of this testnet either is worth anything. Okay, so we've sent it. Let's look on MetaMask. Submitted. Click here. So this is our transaction. It looks like everything's going well, so that's pretty cool. So this should result now in a new contract being created with the click of a button. That would be cool. Hey, there we go. Yeah, so Robson must mine extremely fast because that's 3 block confirmations in like what, 10 seconds. So that's cool. That's nice. It didn't used to be like that. Anyway, so you can see from this will be our factory contract, and to this will be the new contract. So let's go click here. Wait a minute, this is now confusing me because, let's go back. Oh, sorry, no, I was confused. This is me. So this is the transaction that I sent from my MetaMask to the factory contract. So this is the factory contract here. We click here, and here is the transaction I just sent. So let's look at that transaction. And in this transaction, we see that there is a contract. No, let's go to the internal transaction, sorry. Let me back up and explain this a little bit better here. So this last transaction was just sent from me to the contract, to this contract here. If we look at that transaction, we see the same information here. It's from me to the contract, but then if we click on internal transactions, that's what's going to show us the newly created contract. It's an internal transaction because it was triggered from Solidity and not from some outside source. And you can see the create. That's the opcode that actually creates the contract. So now if we click here, this should be our new contract, and there we go. Again, it's saying there's no transactions. There's actually should be one internal transaction, and again, that's internal because it was triggered in Solidity, but that's just what's creating this contract we're looking at. There's no what Etherscan calls transactions. You could maybe call external transactions. There's been no external transactions yet. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That all works. That we can create a new factory address. Now, what we'd like to do is on our interface here, let's go back to here. Now that they're, oh, and we see the transaction here broadcasted as well. We'd like for our page to, once there's something created, it could look at the transaction, get the address of the new contract that's been created, and display the information on it, and let us actually interact with it. So I'm torn. We could work on that, or we could just, for now, keep manually grabbing that address and work on the actual interaction with the subscription manager contract itself. I'm going to go with that just because I'm worried that I'll get stuck in some bug. I don't remember exactly how to do that. So for this seminar, we're going to keep manually grabbing the address, and we'll put a place here to plug it in, or maybe we'll just do a get thing up here, and we'll start building the interface instead, just to interact with the subscription manager contract itself, to deposit and withdraw, and to approve billers. And we almost definitely won't be able to finish this interface today, but that's okay. Wednesdays are where we will typically try to move towards a proof of concept. So today and tomorrow we'll both be working on this interface. And anyway, so let's see. We could make a different interface, or sorry, a different page, or we could have it look for some variable up here. I think that we'll do that, just because that would be a quick and dirty way to get moving along here. So we're going to be using the get stuff. So let's see, script. I don't know if that's going to get what I want. Let's see. Yep, that's what we want. Get variables are available through the window location href, and some frameworks even have methods to readily parse them. Okay, maybe jQuery has something. Oh yeah, I guess that's what we want. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. This is for Ajax. This is for requesting a totally different page. That's what we want. Whoa, this is complex. Okay, well, let's not do that. I thought that was simpler. That's how ToastyCoin does it. If you load ToastyCoin and you want to look at any burnable payment, if you click on one of these, you'll see that it specifies it up here. But I guess that's more complicated than I remember it. I'd hate to spend some time digging into ToastyCoin to figure that out. So we are going to instead use some input fields in our page here. So we'll leave that stuff. We'll leave that transaction broadcast. Okay, we're going to make a new header now. And on Friday, we're going to work on making all this prettier. I mean, this is super ugly right now. We will make it much prettier on Friday. But until we get to Friday, we're focused entirely on functionality. Doesn't make sense trying to make something pretty if it doesn't actually do anything and people won't want to use it anyway. So, okay. Description. So first thing we want to do here is we're going to make an input field, and I want to use it with view. So I'm just going to do a Google for view text input, see what we get. V model, two-way bindings from input and text area. That seems like what we want. Input V model. So that's exactly what we want. So as we type in, it'll update something within our app object, and then we'll be able to look at that and try to load the subscription manager. So let's do that. So input V model equals message, and that's okay. Okay. Input V model, and the name of our variable that we want to model. First, let's put it into our app here. I remembered the comma that time. That's nice. Let's see. What we want to get from the user is the address of the newly created subscription manager. So I will say SM address and make that just null for now. Okay. And we don't need a placeholder. We just need a name. Like that, okay. And before we go too much further, I'm just gonna have an output of the variable that we should be editing, just to make sure that this actually is working like we think it is. I'm gonna refresh here. Okay, so it is updating within the app. That's good. Okay, let's go back here. And now let's see here. So we have the SM ABI. We are going to have an input that the user will be putting in the SM factory, or sorry, the SM address, a subscription manager address. And I guess we want a load button right here, because we don't want to be loading as the user is typing this in, although they're never going to be typing it in, they're always going to be pasting it. So I guess we want to load something as soon as that text changes in there. Okay, I believe that there's a way on view to trigger something when a variable changes. View watch variable change trigger. Let's see what that pops up. Trigger a watch function. Let's try this one here. Extract a method that is called data function. Okay, I think we want to use watch variables. View watch. Computed properties and watchers, that sounds good. We have computed. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a computed variable that will be our contract instance, and then we'll have, I think then we make, let's see, computed versus watched property. View does provide a more generic way to observe and react to data changes on a view instance watch properties. When you have some data that needs to change based on some other data, it is tempting to overuse watch. Often better idea to use a computed property rather than imperative watch. I guess it looks like we can just use a computed function or a computed variable like this. So let's go up to our mu. We now want to computed. And then we want a, I'm going to make a function here, and it's going to be some instance. Subscription manager contract instance would probably be a little bit clearer. And then we tell view how to actually create this thing. I think we just, yeah, okay, so return what it is, you know, how to create it. So we're going to do the same thing that we did here. No, not here, but where did we, right here. So web3.eth.contract, we put in now the ABI and the address, smabi.at, and then the address. Now here, I think if we just do sm address, we might have to do data.sm address. Let's see if that works first. Or maybe this .sm address. Well, that's saved. Let's just uncaught syntax error. Did I miss a comma again? No. Line 18 here. Oh, I did miss a comma right there. Okay. Let's save and refresh. Whoops. Refresh. Okay, no bugs, so that seems fine. Oh, I need a semicolon here. I guess what I'd like to do is try to get something from this contract instance, because this should be computed whenever we put in an address, whenever this variable is updated, which means whenever we type into anything into this, it should recreate this contract instance, and by calling this right here. And if that's the case, then after we put something in, we should be able to well, I guess we can actually make another computed variable that uses this to get something, and we can then display that somewhere. So, okay, let's go back to our Solidity and see what we want to try to pull out of this thing. How about the owner? That'll be super simple. And it's public, so we have a getter here. Now, here is a problem. The problem is, you might initially think, okay, well, let's have another computed variable called owner, right? SM owner, like this. And we can do a function that uses this instance here to return something from the instance. But the problem is, Web3 uses callbacks, and this is a little unfortunate. I mean, we really should be using promises, JavaScript promises, and that would sort of solve the problem here. Unfortunately, Web3 JS uses callbacks. So if we try to get some information from here, if we go look at another Web3 call here, you'll see that we have to pass it to another. This is an anonymous function, and everything from here to here is actually run sort of outside of this function here. In other words, if I were to try to say return result here, and I'll delete this in a little bit, that's not going to return result for this thing here. It's going to be returning from our anonymous function. And this function would never see it. So, and the reason that's causing us a problem now is because the way that these computed things work with Vue, if I try to say return something here, I'm not going to be able to get that Web3 callback to actually return up the stack to here. So we can't really use a computed variable here. Let me know if that doesn't make sense, or ask questions. I have a feeling I'll have to explain that a little bit better, but the short version of the story is we can't use computed here. We can't use a computed variable in Vue to get something from the contract. Now, what we can do is we can add in a regular variable here. Let's see, SM owner. And make it loading, and then we can update this. And in fact, what we can do is we can update it in this. We can also set a timer to try to update it every so many seconds. We could potentially set a watch on this, a Vue watch. I want to go back and look at what the Vue watches do exactly again. Computed setter, watchers. Watch allows us to perform an asynchronous operation. Well, that's what we're doing. Limit how often we perform that operation, and set intermediary states until we get a final answer. That sounds about right. Whenever question changes, this function will run question function. That does sound like what we want. My only question at this point is whether, okay, so here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to make a watch variable on SM contract instance. So ideally, whenever this changes, this will trigger this function I'm writing right here. and then this will update SM owner. And it'll do it by way of a callback. So again, we're going to do, where is our, yeah, so, not window, no, our contract instance is in here. So I'm just going to say SM contract instance, then call the function we want, which is just owner. And how did we do that in our old one? Let's see, release, no. Here's where we got some constant values. So, okay, so this is a little confusing. On Web3, when you call something that is a constant function, the result is not the transaction ID, because you don't need to put any transaction out to the network. It's actually the value of whatever it is that you're looking at. So it's a little confusing, but it makes it simple for us right now, because here we're just going to do almost really exactly the same things we did down here for our deposit interface last week. And we're going to say, okay, we want the owner, pass it an empty dictionary, and we're going to define a function. And then we're just going to we're going to use this result. So this now should be the address of owner. So then we should be able to say SM owner equals res, like that. Hopefully that works. I'm a little unsure of this. Crossing my fingers here. So now it should be that when I reload this, SM address is not defined on, oh boy. Error in getter for watcher SM contract instance. In getter for watcher. It's saying SM address is not defined. Where are we talking about SM address? Oh, right here. I bet that's called something else. Oh, I think we have to say something like this or this dot data. Okay, that seemed, well, it got the made the error message go away, so I think that's good. Okay, now let's get the address of our newly created subscription manager contract, and let's go to our page. Now if we paste this in, nope, SM contract instance is not defined. Oh yeah, same thing, we need to go here and say I believe like that. Might even need to, well, let's see what line that error is on. Line is on, oh, well, it's in the view file. Error and callback for watcher. Okay, I think that will fix it. Let's see. Well, we didn't get an error. That's good. Oh, and then we just need to do this. I bet that'll fix it all. Let's see. Paste. Nothing. Oh, we need to actually reflect this somewhere. So we have the variable saved, but we're not displaying it anywhere. So now we can say owner, and then we can say SM owner like that. It's pretty simple. Okay. So if we loading, that's right, and let's see. Nothing is happening. It's still staying as loading. Okay, let's do a little bit of debugging here. First, let's see if our result is even correct. So we're going to say console.log and res, and just see if we're even getting the owner from the contract, the owner variable from that contract. So I'm going to refresh again and paste. That seems positive. Is that us? 946. Yeah, okay, so it is getting the right variable from the contract. That's good. That means our Web3 code is working correctly. But this .sm owner equals result is not working. I wonder if I bet there's some special way I'm supposed to be setting this. Let's see. Oh, here's the problem. Again, we're using an anonymous function, so the this is no longer pointing to our app. Okay, that's fine. We'll do window.app. Oops, app. Okay, let's try that again. And let's paste that in here. Hey, that looks good. So there's our owner. So that's cool. That's a pretty good milestone. We have now, we can create a subscription manager. Confirm. That's very easy, much easier than going and deploying. We could take this transaction ID. We can go to, I'm just going to close these Robstons and use this one. We can look at that transaction, and we wait, and of course this part is still manual. Eventually you could first of all, you could make this a link that would automatically go to the Robston page, or you could do a little bit more coding in here to actually maybe automatically fill in this this variable here and give you the information. But as we programmed it now, it's still manual, so we have to go here. Okay, there's the contract that was see, once again, now this is a little bit tricky. We have to go to the internal transactions. This is the factory contract, because again, that's where this transaction went. It went from me to the factory contract. We have to go to the internal transactions, and here's our actual contract creation. So there's the contract we just made. So now if we take this, put it in here, it'll load. Of course, it didn't change anything because I'm the owner of both of these, but it loads that owner address, and you can see we have 2 logs. It just puts a 2 there instead of repeating it on this JavaScript console. But that's pretty good so far. Oh, comment on Twitch. Thank you, David. Let me go. Oh, I see it there. Yeah, well, and yeah. Someone on Twitch said, yeah, this is always funny with JavaScript, and it really is, and I think part of that is just because JavaScript uses these anonymous functions a lot. So to talk a little bit more about that, when you're using Web3, we want to get something from Web3 or we want to send a transaction, you have to use these callbacks. And so here we're defining a function that takes 2 variables, and then we're really just saying what the whole function is here. The weirdness comes because this is what they call an anonymous function. There's no name for it. And more importantly, when this code is being run, we're no longer really in this function here. So when we say this around here, there's this is pointing to the wrong thing because we're no longer in this function. We're no longer in this this app thing. So yeah, this is it can be the this keyword can be a little bit tricky in JavaScript just because you're using anonymous functions a lot of the time. Sometimes you don't know what scope you're in. A related thing is I'm always saying window, or often I'm saying window dot whatever. And that's just window is a way of sort of, it's almost like a global namespace. And so when I say window.app.sm owner here, I'm just making sure I'm getting the right app and making sure that it's referencing the right scope. Okay. Yeah, and as that same Twitch user, whose name is Petty Ho, yeah, there's arrow functions as well, which even complicate things further. I haven't used them in here because this is a little bit more explicit, and I don't know if everybody's completely familiar with JavaScript. But okay, so that is a good that's a good place that we're at now. So let's see what else we want on this subscription manager. Well, we want to obviously be able to deposit and withdraw. To deposit, we just send money to it. We almost don't need to implement that, although of course to send money to this we need the contract address. which we do have somewhere here. Oh, we don't actually output it anymore. Well, we have the address here. It would be nice, though, if we could output it to a QR code. I wonder if there's a really simple, I bet there's a really simple JavaScript library to do that. QR code.js, that sounds good. I wonder if there's a CDN to quickly well, let's use this. I was hoping there'd be like a, yeah, let's just do this. QR code.js CDN. Oh, somebody's already. That seems good. This jQuery.QR. Can jQuery do it itself, do QR codes? Do I not even have to get anything else? Now it looks like I do have to download something. But this looks like it's a different library than what I was looking at. Maybe it's the same, actually. This seems way simpler though too. So let's see if we can just include that. So, yep, take that, copy it, put it in here. Now you do want to be a little careful here. In a way, I'm being very irresponsible because I'm including unknown JavaScript code into a dApp front end. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and include this, but I'm going to put a note in the source code saying that that should be removed before it becomes any kind of production. It'll be fine for now, but it's already irresponsible enough to do what I'm doing by saying just including this. But I'm going to mitigate that slightly by just putting a comment in here. Maybe right here. The following, let's see, QR code library is, I don't know, I'll just say this. I'll just say following QR code library. This should be addressed before moving to production or what's the word? Popularizing this tool. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta hit the bathroom, but we'll try out that QR code when I get back. I'm back. Let's try this out. So let's go back to this page here. We've included it. Then create a DOM element which gonna contains the generated QR code image. Love this guy's grammar. I actually do. Okay, so where are we gonna put this on our app here? Well, actually, hold on. Do we actually want to do it that way? Yeah, I guess we do. Want to generate it. Okay. So let's go down to our HTML. Put it right down here. Let's see. SM address QR. Okay. And then we need to do this, jQuery QR code. I'm just going to copy this. Well, it doesn't make sense to copy that. We want to put this now in our watch. So not only do we want to update the owner when this is changed, we also want to update the QR code. I want to put some comments in here. I really should be commenting this more than I do. If anyone wants to go through and comment all this, that would be great, by the way. If anyone feels like that would be a good learning opportunity, or just to familiarize yourself with it. Anyway, okay. Okay, now here's where we put in that code. And then we put in the ID of our element, which I called it SM address QR. SM address QR. And I don't know why I use single quotes there. Doesn't really matter. It's just good to be stylistically consistent. And then we just oh, so I can do this. We don't need that jQuery. We just do that. jQuery dot, and then our what we want to actually put in the QR code. And I think we just put in the address here. I think that's how you generate. That's what you put into a QR code for an Ethereum address. You just put the address right in. And so we want to just do the SM address like that. We'll see if that loads. At first I got some so all of the code that I write during these I update, I push to the GitHub repository. I will first of all, I'll put a link to that right here in the notes. I'll go find it first, GitHub. So github.com/cryptoprimitive/seminar source code. That's where it is, and I divide them into weeks. So yeah, we will. This code that I'm working on right now will go into week 2, and then the code that I pulled it from, which is here. I'm actually going to close this because we're not really looking at that anymore. That was in week 1. So all the code that I'm working on will always go into this seminar source code, and anyone should feel free to fork and branch and do all sorts of crazy shit with it. And of course, all this is unlicensed. If you want to go build the next Facebook with any of this, please feel free to build anything you want. There's no rules on any of this. Anyway, so I'm going to take this and put it into the mix here. So that way that's there. Okay, let's see, close that. And I guess I also want to put this link in there while I'm putting links in here. Is there anything else I should put in as a link? Nah. Okay, let's see, what was I doing here? That can stay doing what it's doing. I guess we're ready to test it. That's right. Okay, so save it, go here, and refresh the page. Now, unexpected token got a syntax error on 29. Unexpected token, what is the... Oh, we need to actually say text, like that. Okay, so let's go and take our, this again, put it in here, and we got some errors here. Error in callback, SM address is not defined. Oh, yeah, once again, this needs to be this.sm address. Again, and paste. That's not a QR code. That's just a string. Oh yeah, we need to, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go, I didn't want to give it a text, I wanted to give it a QR code. Let's go back to that example. Just QR code, that's what I want, not text. QR code. There we go. That should do it. Let's try it. Hey, that's pretty cool. Okay. So if you have a phone now and you have some Ropsten Ether on it, or if this was on the mainnet and you had some real Ether, then you could use this QR code to deposit Ether into this subscription manager contract. That's pretty cool. I'm just gonna make it a little clearer what that actually is. Okay. All right. So that's cool. Nice. Okay, so now we can move on to doing some more contract stuff. Before going in there, I'm going to show you guys one neat little trick that's useful for DApp interfaces with Vue. So Vue has this thing, it's a little bit like our v4 here, but it's called a v-if, and it's a really convenient way of hiding information if you're not ready to display it yet. So if you look at this, this QR code for depositing and owner loading, we don't really need to display that until there's actually something in here. So we can do that really, really easy with this v-if here. First of all, let's wrap everything we want to potentially hide in a div. So I'm going to say div. Let's give it an ID. Let's see, contract interface, I guess, or SM interface maybe. Like that. And then I'm going to indent everything and close the div here at the end, like that. And now I'm going to say v-if equals, and then here we can put in some JavaScript code, and it will always be sort of modifying, or not modifying, but monitoring this code, and only displaying if whatever you put in here is true. So we are going to say if SM address doesn't equal nothing, but I wanted to use single quotes, so they don't get confused with our larger quotes outside. And I believe that that will make it to where when we load the page, this will all be hidden. And it's only when we put something in this input here and SM address is changed that this will actually show up. Let's just see if that works. Okay, it's empty. Now if we put our, there we go. Oh, that's, our QR code is not working. Why is our QR code suddenly not working? Did I? 946. I think that's actually our address. So that might have something to do with it. Let's go back to our contract. Copy that. Put that in here. That might fix it. No. We don't have any errors. Why is this not working? Let's, I'm going to take these out and see if it starts working again. It does. So it's, by making it hidden some of the time, it, I guess it can't find, I can't find the element if it's being hidden. Let's just see if we can find a quick Google solution here. See if that helps. So it looks like the element does not exist. Oh, you know, we might want to use vShow instead of vIf. vIf versus v. Yeah, I bet you vShow is what we want. Yes, that's what we want. Okay. Yeah, vIf is the real conditioning, lazy. Always rendered regardless of initial condition. Okay, let's just try that. I think that will fix it though. Show. Go here and refresh. Paste in the address and there we go. That's cool. And if we take something out, it all disappears and whoa, we get some crazy stuff here. Oh, it's probably because it's trying to look up an address that is a 0 value. I'm not going to worry about that now. Whoa, that's also weird. It looks like every time we change this, it'll add to the QR bit there. I wonder if there's any way we can fix that. I suppose we could try to clear it first. Let's try that. HTML, nothing. Now that should clear it before putting in the QR code. Let's see if that fixes that weird bug. Put in, still, oh, that's not what I wanted. I need to get my address again. Copy. Go here and paste. Looks good. Paste again. Okay, that looks fine. Okay, that's all good. Again, this weird error here is just because when I erase this, it tries to load a contract that doesn't exist, and so obviously it has some issues with that. I'm not gonna worry about fixing that. We could put in some ifs here and fix it. Okay, so we have about 25 minutes left in the 2-hour slot here. I think all my seminars, I think I'm going to just say they're all going to be 2 hours. 2 hours is a long time. I don't want to go over that. I'm also hesitant to go under that because when we're programming, you really want as much time as you can have to get in the swing of things. There does seem to be almost a momentum element to programming. So we have 25 minutes left. What do we want to work on next? If we go back to the interface, we can create a new subscription manager, and we can then reference it by the address and actually get some sort of interface. But the interface doesn't do anything. Of course, we can, if we paste in here, we can deposit money into it, but we can't withdraw, and we also can't specify any billers for approve any billers. So I think with the remaining time, even though it makes a certain sort of sense to work on the withdraw functionality because you can already deposit, I am going to skip that for now and instead implement the approve biller functionality because that's sort of more interesting from an instructional perspective. And then on Wednesday we will try to sort of add all of the missing pieces. So we have let's go back to the code here. We already have our SM contract instance. We know that's working because we can get the owner address from it right here. So we know that's working. So now what we want to do is we want to add a little input form, I suppose, that's going to ask for all the information necessary to set a certain biller. And I did a little mock-up here. I meant to take a picture of it. I wonder if I can quickly add that somewhere. I'm going to see if I can do that. Let's see if I can I add from my webcam? No. I wonder if I can add from my phone. Give me just a second, guys. I'd like to upload this mock-up here if I can to the Slack. Let's go to my phone Slack. See if I can upload a picture easily. Go to the stream chat. And picture. Yeah, looks like it'll work. Okay, so this is going on the Slack. Okay, I've just posted that into seminar chat. And just in case there's anybody on the Twitch chat that doesn't have access to the Slack, I'm going to find a Slack invite link. And I'll also at the same time show you guys how to find it right here. It's actually, okay, it's super easy to get. In fact, I'm not going to post it because it's so easy. If you guys want to go here, just go to cpacademy.io and then click out this, check this link right here. Click this link right here. That will bring you to a automated inviter, and then you can get invited to the Slack. And I guess it is easy. I'll just post this into the Slack chat. Twitch TV Coin Op Logan. And put it right here. Chat. And there you go. So that is the invite to the Slack where I've posted my mock-up here. Yes, it's better to ask questions in the seminar chat because this doesn't go away. So, now that I've closed the Twitch channel, if I go back there, all the chat is erased from my viewing. I only see what's there when I'm on there. And I don't like to stay on this page because it's just going to take up more bandwidth. I do have, I am watching the the Twitch chat on my phone. So feel free to post stuff there. I mean, especially if you're going to chat with other people, that's fine. And I can see it. But the other thing is I also don't hear things from the chat. I don't have the notifications on, and I do have the sound on for Slack. So it's much easier for me to keep up with there. Okay, so let's get back to it. So that is the mock-up. I'm just going to click on this and talk about some of this stuff. So yeah, so we wanted to, let's see, this stuff is just loading or creating the smart contract. So we already got that done. We can we could have made a deposit button that would trigger MetaMask directly. I'm not going to worry about that now, although that would be a good piece to put in because it just makes it easier for the user who has MetaMask. And that would not trigger a contract call. It would just trigger a regular MetaMask transaction, which would be good to go over. So maybe I will try to get to that today. But first, let's work on this bit right here. First, we'll need to make the HTML input form. I suppose we'll also put a little button here that says go. And but you can see it's pretty simple. I mean, our Solidity function itself is pretty simple if we go and look at it. Let's see here. Set bill rate. It just takes the biller address and the new rate, and our form is just going to take that information, and then we'll have a little submit button. Then we'll have a Web3 call that actually calls this function here. And so that seems like pretty doable within 20 minutes. And if we have time, we'll also make a deposit button and then possibly also a withdraw button. Although we'll have to take some input on the withdraw. And anyway, let's get to this set billing permissions bit here. First of all, where do we want it here? Let's see. I could get fancy. For me, fancy would be putting something over here and actually trying to make a two-dimensional structure here. You know, designing web page, the visual part of web pages is not my expertise. I certainly can. I did it with ToastyCoin, but it's not what I'm good at, and I'd hate to sort of waste your guys' time by doing that. On Friday, I'll get much more into the visual design, and I'm hoping to talk to some people that I've worked with by then and sort of pick their brains. But for now, I'm just going to continue on with this really super basic linear style. And one benefit to that is that if people are watching that don't know anything about website development, they can still understand what's going on. A little bit simpler than if I start adding in Bootstrap and things like that. So, okay, let's just make another header here, I suppose, although maybe rename this one. Let's go to the code here. Go down to my HTML. So, interaction. Let's make this a bigger header. So it'll make this a little bigger. And then let's make the H2. Set biller permissions. And this is still, it is still part of our div for the app. It is, but the indentation is a little misleading here, so I'm going to, that's where it got misleading. That needs to be indented. That needs to be indented, whoops, like that. Okay, that's a little clearer. So everything in between this div and this div is part of this app, and that's what I wanted to check, and now it's a little clearer. Okay, set biller permission. So going back to our mockup here, it's going to be pretty simple. Biller address. So this is the address that the service would give to you. So if you're going to go to QuickNode and they are actually using this, they would say, okay, here's our biller address that we're going to bill from. You need to add permissions for this address. They would give you this address, and then you would go to your little your tool, whether it's a web page tool or maybe even a desktop tool, but it connects to the contract and it's going to ask you for the address. So I'm going to say input. And I think I'm going to do it the same style where our input is going to be a V model. I don't remember where that went. Where did our other input go? It must be in this. Oh yeah, V model right here. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Input V model. And we're also going to want a approved billing rate, like that. We'll name these in just a second. I just want to put the general form down first and see that it renders in a way that's not totally messed up. Refresh. Whoa, this is crazy. Oh, it's just telling me it failed to render. It's probably because I have these guys named a null value. So let's put some names in here. Cool. Yeah. Good night, Sayron. I don't know if I saw that in time to say good night, but he's heading out. All right. So biller address vModel. I'm gonna call these input. And really I should call this input 2. I'm gonna do a find and replace here. Okay, that looks good. Let's close that. Okay, let's just save now. See if it renders. Whoa. Yeah. Okay. Once again, it's just complaining because I need to. If I'm telling Vue to model something, it expects to be able to find this within the object, the Vue object. So I just need to go and put some references in there. Just get rid of those errors. And what did I call them again? Brain like a goldfish. Biller address input and billing rate input. Don't forget the comma. And if I was going to be super elegant in my design here, I would probably actually create a different view. So I would have separate view objects, and I would say maybe this would be my main view, and then down here I would maybe somewhere around here make another view. You know, I'd close out that div, and I'd start another div here and say ID equals interaction view, something like that. That would probably be a more elegant or cleaner organizational way to do it. I'm not going to worry about that now. I'm just going to Control Z all everything I did there. But that would be sort of a more elegant way to do it, I think. I mean, I'm not certainly no Vue expert, as I said earlier. Visual design is not my strength. So, but that I suspect that would be a better way to do it. Anyway, I'm going to save, see if I can refresh. Any errors have gone away. That's good. And it looks good right here. So now all we need to do is do something with these, and I guess I need to add a button here. On click equals, we'll fill that in a second. What do we call this button? Set biller permissions. We'll just say set permissions like that. Okay, and now let's reference a function that we'll go define. What is the name of the function here? Set bill rate. So here, this is a bit of a mouthful here. Set bill rate is the smart contract function, and just like earlier with our creation, I mirrored the name of the smart contract function, and I just put a call in front of it to indicate that on this function that we're about to define is going to be calling the function new subscription manager in this case, and in this case it's going to be calling set bill rate. And then I put this from form bit on the end to sort of indicate that I'm not passing the variables needed, but they will be in the form. And then, so this function will have to grab that stuff from these variables. And actually, maybe from form is not totally accurate because it's going to be grabbing them from the view variables. So I'm going to say call set bill rate from view, but that's a little confusing. I don't really know if that's clear. I guess I'm just going to take that off for now. It'd be cool if I could be explicit there, but I'm not sure that trying to be explicit would really help. So, okay, here I'm going to now say function call set bill rate. Okay. And, oh, another thing I wanted to do is for this, whoops, let's go back to our interface here. This, we have to think about what units we want the user to specify, and we should probably indicate. So I'm gonna opt for ETH per month because that's probably what billers are going to be most comfortable billing. They could do weekly, or they could do per day or per second even. And certainly our contract stores this not in ETH per month, but it stores it in WAY per second. So our interface is going to have to do some math. I'm going to save this and refresh. If we wanted to, we could design in some drop-down menus in here that could actually let you select and change each of these values. So you could say, I'm going to set the billing rate, but I'm going to specify it in weeks, WAY per weeks, or whatever it is that you want to do. That would be a nice improvement to the interface. But we are focused on proof of concept first and foremost, so we're just going to leave it at ETH per month. And certainly that seems to be the most common billing way to specify billing. So, okay, we got that a little bit clearer, and now we just need to go and define what this function actually does. So it's going to be similar to this one because we're still using a Web3 call. So window, actually it's not going to be window.instance because our instance for our actual subscription manager is in the view app. So it's going to be window.app. What is it called? It's called SM contract instance. Okay, now we call the function we want, which is, I should put a little break here. Set bill rate, okay, and pass in that empty dictionary. And I believe we just list the arguments. Yeah, we haven't really used a Web3 function that sends arguments yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and look up the Solidity, the Web3 docs, Web3.js contract function calls. Hopefully that gets me to it. ETH contract options, properties, address, methods. No, I don't want that. Yeah, so you just list the arguments you're going to be sending to it, and the arguments that it needs. Again, let's look at the remix, or sorry, the Solidity here. It needs the biller address first, and then the rate second. So we're going to grab those from the app, and they're going to be biller address input, billing rate input, except they're not directly going to be that. So these are variables I haven't defined yet, but we're going to go ahead and define them now. Because we don't actually, let's see, WAY per second. So biller address is actually quite simple. That's all we need to do for that. But to actually get this billing rate in WAY per second, because that's what the contract takes, we need to do a little bit of math. So let's first, just to be explicit here, rate in ETH per month. That is going to be input, and I just realized these need to actually also be window.app. Window.app. Okay. And now the last thing we need to do is actually do the math here. So one thing that we can do, Web3 has this nice, they have two functions, to, way, and from way. Rate in ETH per month. So this function call right here will, I'll just finish out the line here to make it a little clearer what's happening. In way per month equals that. So these variables look the same, but here it's ETH per month and here it's way per month. And we're just using the Web3 to-way function, and the first variable, the first argument of that is the value that we're going to try to convert from, and the second argument is what units we're converting from. I'll put a semicolon there. And then so now we just need to convert months to seconds, and so if there's so much way per month, then we need to divide it a whole bunch. And actually, because we're dealing with huge numbers, JavaScript does not have an easy time with big numbers, so we want to make sure that we're using Web3. Web3 has these big numbers that they use, and we want to make sure we're using those. So I'm going to say web3.rc new web3. I think it's a big number like that. I'm just going to make sure I have that correct. Oh, no, I don't want to add the bookmark. Oh, get out of here. There we go. Okay, big number, too big number. Okay, we'll use that. So Web3 too big number, and then it'll take the billing rate input. Yeah, okay. And I believe that two-way also returns a big number. I'm sure that's true. I'm just going to look it up just to be sure. Returns string or big number, either string or a big number depending on a given number parameter. Okay, so since we passed it a big number, it should return a big number. Okay, that's fine. And now the last thing is, as I said, we need to now change it from way per month to way per second. And that's going to be just some math here. So way per second equals billing rate in way per month. Okay, that's going to be, I guess we need to divide, right? Yeah, so divided by put a big number in here, and that number is going to be 30. Will get us to the days. 24 gets us to the hours, and that gets us to minutes, and that gets us to seconds. I believe that's all correct. Yeah. Now, there's a little bit of weirdness in here, in that in our interface here, man, I need to clean up these tabs. We're saying ETH per month, but some months have 31 days or 28 days, and so I'm just going to change the wording of this. I'm going to say not ETH per month. I'm going to say it like that, because that's actually what's happening here. Okay. All right. Now, where were we? We were here. So this this might work now. We've generated our. We got the biller address from the View app, and we've got the billing rate in way per second by sort of massaging our billing rate input in a couple of different lines here. And so then we have called the app, and now we want to finally add our callback. error, console.log. Okay. Else. Ooh, we are almost done. Almost out of time, I should say. So I'm going to really quickly, let's see, how did we handle that last time? app.transactions.push. I'm also going to make these a little clearer. So create like that, and okay. All right, so let's see if this works. We've refreshed. First thing we need to do is, okay, I'm going to clear out some of these tabs, guys. We don't need list rendering. We want the remix still. We can close the introduction. We can close that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that as well, and that. Okay, cool. Now where was I? Okay, so I need to get the contract address, which is here. Go back to our interface, put it in, and our QR code pops up, the owner pops up, that's still working. But now we're going to try to set builder permissions. So we want to take, let's go ahead and take our test Alice address, copy it, put that in, and approve billing rate, ETH per 30 days. Once again, I'm going to say 0.01 Ether. I don't have that math that I used to have, but let's just see if this works. So set permissions, and we got an error, new big number, not a number, object. Okay, so